Yeah, that's fine. Okay, I seem to be here, as one of my friends said once. But I don't see my
Yeah,
image.
Michael, it looks like I only see the top of your head. Is your camera?
Huh. Hey.
Ha! Yay!
Okay. There we are. Well, look. Hi, friends, and welcome. Glad to see you here. Those of you who were able to make it. I just want to take a look. I'm hoping that we see the schedule that Anne and Tuya prepared. Basically, tomorrow we have the Virgo exact full moon, but that's in the United States and so forth. In Europe, no. Um, so basically, at the full moon, in terms of GMT, um, I think that's it, right? Is occurring at 11:54 and 32 seconds. Well, basically, that's 11:55, and we begin the broadcast at 10 minutes after 10, and that will be in our usual YouTube live link station. If you ever get lost and don't know where you are, at least go to the live link and perhaps something is going on there. I just wanted to point out how very busy the next few days will be. We have, we have the United Nations Day of World Peace on the 21st of September. So, and that is, Tuya says that we will celebrate the Day of Peace at our usual pentagram full moon broadcast. And the pentagram looks like it's taking place. It's approach number 4, and it looks like 6 p.m. GMT. Then the Libra equinox, which is a very important turning point, and this is occurring at, let's see, the sacred pentagram will be included, and this is occurring at 6:40 GMT on Wednesday, so make note of that in your particular time. The exact time, I haven't checked it out, to the second is 7:21 p.m. GMT. And then we go on as the week goes on with the reappearance of the Christ and the dissipation of glamour. The reappearance of the Christ is a webinar broadcast, but the dissipation of glamour is a Zoom cast. And then we continue with some work on the climate change and on Shambhala, for which the links are there. So this takes us up to the end of the month almost. The triangles work is there as well. So there's just a lot going on in terms of the pre-full moon, full moon, equinox, and United Nations Day of Peace. So check your schedule and, I'm sorry, check your links. You ought to be okay. Okay. Who can see this transcript? I'm not sure. All right, but in any case, I've made those announcements. Now, the next thing I want to do, you know that Francis has prepared over the years quite some detailed descriptions of the images he has included, the geometry of it, and references to decay and so forth. So do go to Makara if you want to read into that more carefully. I'm not having time to to read in any sense the completeness of what he has done. And I would welcome you all individually, but there's going to be quite a few of us. I just want to thank Michael Crow and BL and Joe Waltz and Michael Stacy, all on our communications team, for helping us, and for Anne Nguyen translating this for the Vietnamese students, and hopefully we'll have some other translators for Portuguese and other languages excuse me, as we go along, because it can be quite important to get the words in your own language. Okay, now, so just in general, I see a lot of familiar names, and I'm grateful that you are here. Now, let's see a little bit more. Okay, and you'll have to tell me, let's see if I can do this properly. Okay. There's a couple of images that Francis has particularly, which are of interest. I have to find a way to make this one appear. This is his image of the great feminine principle as related to the moon, and it's filled with interesting detail that he describes significantly. As you all know, or maybe should know by this time, Virgo may be a constellation where the second and the sixth ray are now potent, and especially the second ray, Christ in you, the hope of glory. But it wasn't always so. And my impression is that in the previous solar system, previous major solar system, and especially the second part of that solar system, Virgo ruled in a material sense, and basically ruled the entire interactivity of matter. Now, a lot of that has been inherited into our solar system, even though the focus has changed. And here is another one, and let's see if, yeah, you see it. That's the thing about Zoom. You never know when people are actually seeing things. This is another story of the third ray in relation to Virgo. There is the great weaving loom of time and space, and this great energy is involved in creating the causal body. Here we find the caduceus, which is one of the major rulers of Virgo, along with what we might call the exalted ruler. We find the moon, as I said, and we even find Jupiter, the hierarchical ruler, here as looks like a hair clip. So the weaver is ever at work, creating in matter that which must manifest. And finally, it's the Christ energy, especially individually, which must manifest. So all of this will be well worth your time if you have not read carefully what Francis has said and described about these two images. What I want to do now is also, let's see, yeah, I'm trying to find two more things. Yeah, that you saw, I think, did you see those images? I wonder, I think you did. And now I want to look at the Jafra images. And let's just see if we can find them in an expeditious way. Here they should be. And I'll come up with them as soon as I can. And there you should see the images that we are working with. Tuya brought these in already, and we will be thinking about them. There are two great mantrams connected with Virgo. One of them is more general and inclusive of the three divine aspects. If you really look at it deeply, you, I, and all are the mother and the child, and we are God, the planetary logos, as well. So in a way, Virgo is a very synthetic sign. As Tuya was pointing out, it has the three mountains and the three aspects of divinity. And depending on how it is drawn, it also has the fish here at the end, which tells us about its opposite sign, Pisces, at the time of the full moon, and tells us something about the fish goddesses who spawn the many, or give birth to the many individual units. None of them is really real. All of them are very partial, and all of them one day will discover their identity. I am the mother and the child. I, God, I, matter, am. Now the rulers are, as pointed out, Mercury in an orthodox manner, the moon esoterically for advanced humanity and also for aspirants and disciples, and Jupiter, hierarchical, for the more advanced disciple and initiates. As far as Mercury goes, it has that unusually exalted position in relation to Virgo. So how we deal with Virgo as the end of the previous solar system coming into our solar system and taking the place or reinforcing what is called the primordial ray, which is the third ray, is very important because the divine ray of love wisdom has to work out through the primordial ray. Now, we're in a love wisdom system at this time. It's the fifth solar system, but it is the second of the major solar systems. Now, let's see if I can, I trust that you can and are looking at, yes, you are, the Jofra illustration. It's very angelic, and Virgo is connected strongly with the elemental kingdoms and with the angel kingdom, in which there is much activity today to learn to work with humans. It's also a galactic kind of sign, because if you look in the direction of Virgo in the heavens, and you have a powerful telescope, you're going to see just a huge number of galaxies. And of course, that may indicate the coming to birth of those great systems. This is very detailed kind of illustration from Jofra. He seems, though, to take largely the exoteric point of view. I mean, Mercury is there, but the moon is not, and neither is Jupiter, because that's part of the esoteric system of master decay. The transmutation factors are here, the scholarly factors are here, the fertility factors are here. Here is the Virgin Goddess, who, by the way, in a way is our planetary logos from another perspective. She's holding an egg, which is the symbol of birth, and she's also holding the sheaf of wheat. And the tradition is that the wheat was a gift from the planet Venus. Now you can, actually Venus is not traditionally strong in Virgo, but it tells us about the way in which our great alter ego, who has achieved much along the line of illumination and love, has fallen sacrificially, or at least conducted the certain solar angels into our system, even though in a way uncomfortable for them, a great redemptive fallen presence for us. So there's everything about Virgo looked at in this sense contributes to the upliftment of humanity by bringing to birth, finally, the Christ consciousness, and especially in the individual sense. It is Aries, you may remember from your reading in esoteric astrology, that is birthing the cosmic Christ, Virgo, the individual Christ. Well, for all of us, we really have to question the degree to which the Christ consciousness has been born within us. Or whether, we are one of those points of light approaching, withdrawing, unsteadily. One day we have to have a steady approach. And Virgo overall, compared to Gemini, well, they're both connected with the first initiation, but Virgo is a more steady sign and leads to the blending of the different aspects, whereas Gemini leads to the oscillation of the different aspects, now one, now the other, although both of them are strong second-ray signs and contribute to the Christ consciousness. There's just so much to go into here, and just your studies in esoteric astrology will take you there, and if you follow the video commentary I made on every page of the esoteric astrology book and all the cross references, you'll see how what a detailed proposition it really is. Now, Master DK talks about the ray of meticulous entirety. That's obviously the second ray, and the Virgo energy, which brings in more second ray at this time than any other constellation, contributes to the way DK has us study with meticulous entirety. He says it's difficult for him to explain what it really is, and he kind of invokes an advanced second ray meditation theme called inclusive reason. And it's very close to pure reason, and it has contained within it this meticulous entirety. So, go there to approximately page 364 in your esoteric psychology book. You never know where you're going to find those astrological references, and read up on that which you and I have to achieve through, in part, through the great intelligence of this sign in which Mercury, the planet of intelligence particularly, is exalted. Okay, well, maybe that's enough to be said at the moment. I sometimes wonder, can we absorb it all? It's the second ray pill, absorb it all. Can we really? But even if we absorb the major principles, we're already on our way. And the idea is to be able to live in the energy so you can actually apply it. You can know a lot about a lot of things. I know that problem only too well, but Master Moria said it well, that even a donkey can carry a library on its back. Well, that was not a very flattering idea, but it's true. We have to be able to build the causal body every month by using the available ambient energies, and we have to be able to detect them, to tell that in fact they really are here, and we have to be able to feel them and feel the change which occurs when the sun ingresses in the tropical system, I might add, which is the true esoteric system, according to Master DK, around page 63 of Esoteric Astrology. We have to be able to detect as part of our consciousness these actual energies. We can talk about them till we are blue, but to actually feel them, have the sense of building them into our causal body, and that's what that weaver is doing. She is making sure the causal body will be completed, okay? That's a whole nother thing, and part of what we might call practical occultism. We know how good a practical occultist Master DK really is. I'm just amazed constantly, not only at what he knows, but what he can do. And that's, I guess, that realization comes for me later in life, and I was always impressed, but I'm continuously more impressed by those two factors taken in combination. All right, well, there's, as I say, read Francis's material that BL is, she's giving you the link in the chat box, I believe, and it's really worth the study, and he takes other lines of approach as well, and quotes DK where relevant, but each one of them demands considerable study, if I may say. Now, doing my best here to stay on the rails, you know. Here's our meditation. By now, of course, after all these years, you're somewhat familiar with it, I would say. I keep it always the same and always different. So we are on, we're actually in this day of dedication, I think, and before long, we will be in the actual day of safeguarding. We don't know. We can suppose when Master DK had groups that he summoned around him, he paid a lot of attention to their group approach for the 12 hours beforehand. Now, we are aspirants to that state, and I think he will resume that kind of work, and I don't think that it hurts to act as if he were still doing the same kind of attentive work with us who are approaching as a group. So quite soon we'll be into that day of what we're calling here safeguarding, receiving, and holding. The very real, ambient, available energies, and then we can carry on for 2 or 3 days with these other dynamics of registration and the sense of expectancy and belief as we continue to distribute the energies. I'm reaching for my pitch pipe here because I like to stay in tune, even though it's difficult to sing anymore, but okay, do our best here. All right. And let's make sure that this is what you're seeing. And I hope that this is what you're seeing. Yeah. You're seeing the meditation, Michael or BL, you're seeing that?
Yes, we've got it. Thank you.
Okay. So we withdraw our consciousness from the personality and its vehicles, and we, at least imaginatively, enter deeply into the presence of the soul. At first, we are the soul in incarnation. Even realizing that is already a detachment from what usually preoccupies our attention. And at least imaginatively, we feel ourselves being established as a soul within the field of light, love, and spiritual power. It is as if our environment changes. And we are no longer taken by the customary so much. It doesn't mean we don't use the personality, we do, but we have to have a point within the light, love, and power to utilize what is normally very demanding according to its own desires and illusions. So we merge ourselves into a deep sense of the group soul. And with so much second ray energy coming through Virgo, it shouldn't be too difficult to accomplish this. We may be geographically spread about, but in terms of our unity and merging, our coherence, we should be able to get the sense of this merging. Virgo, second ray, the law of coherence. All these things are related. The soul, the middle principle, in a way the heart center of the monad. And not only do we get a deep sense of the group soul between, among however many of us there are, but we extend the idea to emerging with the spiritually minded people of the world, the men and women of goodwill, and those who are even more keen about their service, the members of the subjective new group of world servers, wherever they are not alone, and we are connected in soul with them. Wherever anybody is really helping in a consistent and selfless way, we are with them and merging with them, even though We don't know them personally. And we can go as far as we can go, including through Jupiter Virgo anyway, the one soul of humanity. Rule number 5 in the rays and the initiations tells us no longer use the thought, my soul and thine. And you know, something begins to happen inside your consciousness when people are not just out there and others. They're right here and the merging is taking place. Until we reach that amazing second ray mantra, naught is but me. It starts with human beings, but it's going to include the other kingdoms also. So it's hard to describe that in strictly logical terms. There has to be some deeply felt aspect of it. Now, at the mental unit, there's going to be a pool of energies, and we're going to, as if, see them transported from the soul, the light, the love, the sacrifice, drawn in to this pool of collected energies. Also, the synthesis factor and the dominating will factor of the jewel, all drawn in and around. And from the astral body through the pool of retained energies, there is a multicolored bridge emphasizing indigo at this time and seeking to connect with the various aspects of the spiritual triad, and first the monastic permanent atom, which is still on the mental plane, the higher substratum of the mental plane, and entering invocatively into the Buddhic plane, never, of course, to the utmost height of the Buddhic plane, but entering, and the Atmic plane. Those things really are beyond us, but some energy will flow back. And over time, there will be a meeting of the returning energy and our upward striving line of light through the indigo. And more the quality of the spiritual triad, which is impersonal, will be able to descend into our consciousness. So let's sound the Om outwardly, and I see the greatest light, which is the word of power. For the indigo ray, for the second ray, with which particularly we have to learn to work. And we see that line of light going through the indigo and reaching as much as possible these higher points of tension. Oh. The greatest light will come from the monad and beyond, but Shambhala and the monad are sufficient for us now, and increasingly they will descend, these impulses, from the very highest aspect of our nature, and we will increasingly live impersonally and under divine purpose. I see the greatest light. So, in the presence of this increasingly great light, evoked through our technical Antakarana building, we attempt to feel. I use that word not just in the astral sense, but more as Master M uses it. It has to do simply with sensitivity. Attempt to feel the presence of the Brotherhood of the Lodge of Light, the Lodge of Masters, the spiritual hierarchy of our planet. And what follows actually is not really made up. It's what Master DK suggested that we do. Offer our salutations and our intent to cooperate as we begin to receive the impersonal energies of the spiritual triad. And that's the area, of course, where the great majority of masters now find their ashrams. Ever since, I think, 1925, the big shift began to occur. Maybe some strictly scientific ashrams are still found on the highest of the highest part of the mental plane. So we offer our salutations, which is like recognition of who the elder brothers, the elder sisters, who they are, and that we recognize them, and we want to cooperate with them. Salutations to the Christ, the Master of all masters and the teacher alike of angels and of men. Salutations to the triangle of masters with whom we work most closely. That's Master Moria Kutumi and Jualku DK. Salutations to the Master Moria, the head of all esoteric schools and organizations. Salutations to the Master Kutumi, whose ashram is most responsible at this time for preparing the way for the reappearance of the Lord Maitreya, the Christ. Salutations to the Master Jualkul, in whose training ashram many of us find our way before some move on to their own master. He has given us the blue books and is the messenger, the sanctified messenger of the spiritual hierarchy. Salutations to your own master, as you know him to be or conceive him to be. Salutations to the entire spiritual hierarchy of our planet. Now, imaginatively we raise our thought as a group to Shambhala, the center where the will of God is known, and with deepest reverence and humility, as Master TK is always demonstrating with respect to Shambhala, we attempt, as a group, to attune with the presence of Sanat Kumara, standing at the very center of Shambhala. This is not an easy thing to do, and people who think that it is easy must remember that even masters of the fifth degree are not simply allowed into that point of tension that we call Shambhala. And so in that state of reaching out, or rather in, we sound a long, silent Om within our consciousness as we imagine the group imbued by the energies of Sanat Kumara. At least to the extent possible. At every full moon, Shambhala is really so important because the energies available are there assembled and distributed. So here we are. Let us be mindful together, and we can, as if, pull ourselves together to a point. This means not that we are other than each other. We're all one consciousness and one identity, and as the image has been given to us, there is the golden path. The golden path leading to the center of the indigo sun, which is like a replica of the blue logos. And there, at least imaginatively, we meet the consciousness of Master TK. And we attempt, as we meet planet after planet, to become outposts of that very inclusive, well-organized, detailed consciousness. So that when we encounter the rays, the planets, the constellations, we are uplifted by the infusion of the consciousness of Master DK, and therefore know and understand more. And there are three planetary rulers particularly, and two veiled rulers. We have Mercury, the exoteric ruler, conveying acute, discriminative intelligence in the field of matter form. Now that's its most ordinary function. It also is the sun of mind related to the higher mental plane and the soul, and the transmitter of triadal energy. We have the moon. Esoterically, it is the esoteric ruler, representing the threefold form and its potential for purification. The better to embody and express the Christ principle, and veiling Vulcan, who works for forging the bonds of relationship in matter. And Neptune also is veiled. Vulcan, very physical. Neptune, more astral, Buddhic. And Neptune will convey a type of sublime endurance in the process of birthing the Christ's consciousness, which is indicated by Neptune. Remember, Christ as the initiator is Neptune. And then finally, Jupiter, the hierarchical ruler, suggesting the consummated expansion of the Christ principle, as that principle expresses on the monadic plane. You might not think so, but there it is, ruled by both Virgo and Jupiter. So many are the rulers there. Mercury, Moon, Vulcan, Neptune, Jupiter. aided by the supportive consciousness of Master Decay, we first ponder on the power of Mercury, the son of mind, in relation to Virgo, conveying the acute ability to focus the mind analytically, lucidly, and reasonably, so that the birthing of the Christ principle in the heart may be prepared with full intelligence. The manger, where symbolically and probably actually in a way the Christ is born, is prepared. Of course, we know it was the initiate Jesus who was born in the body. The Christ had his own Maya Virupa. And that is an interesting duality which has to be disentangled over the coming years. As DK refers to the need to disentangle the golden threads and the silver threads, the gold of the life of the Christ and the events which he brought to humanity, and the silver threads, the episodes in the life of the initiate Jesus. So we let this practical stream of Mercurian energy, the orthodox part of it, come in to ourselves and our groups, imagining the group now possessing more of this kind of intelligence. And will sound an Om to imagine this intelligent Mercurian energy coming into our groups. In our groups, we do need to know the facts of things, and we do need to understand the material basis of what our role in the divine plan may be. We've been studying a treatise on cosmic fire, and the whole first part of the book is very Virgo Mercury in the orthodox sense of preparing the material foundation. Now, if any of these, are missing, it's going to be resulting in a diminishment of the kind of service we can offer. And now the next is to encounter the moon, the power of the moon in relation to Virgo. But basically, it's not the moon we know. The moon is dead. The moon is something of a vampire to the earth. The moon decaying, falling apart, suffuses the earth with malevolent currents. But rather, it's about our lunar vehicles, ruled physically by Vulcan and astrally by Neptune. There's more to Vulcan than physicality, of course. The whole atmic plane and the agony chaitans of a higher type are found related to Vulcan, and the Buddhic plane with the higher Agni Suryans are related to Neptune. Those are perhaps more practical for us to respond to. Well, the idea is eventually, because such is not yet the case, to convey the ability to restore the threefold lunar form to its divinely intended purity. And all this is achieved not really by the moon at all, but by the will to endure of Vulcan, holding the lunar form in its grip, and also persistent control, because Vulcan is a willful, controlling, soul-impressing planet. All this until the Christ child, who is Neptune Vishnu, is born in the cave of the heart at the first initiation. So we should seek to understand this individually, because I'm sure that for many, and maybe all of us, this kind of birth has taken place. But we have to understand it also in terms of humanity. So we wouldn't want lunar energy to flow into our lunar vehicles. We want what the moon veils to flow into our individuality and into our groups. So let's think about Vulcan flowing in and Neptune flowing in, and how that can help our individual and our group process. First, Vulcan coming into our group process. We'll use the note D. It's sometimes called a first ray note, orange note, and related to Vulcan. Strengthening the group. And we'll use an A flat for Neptune. So our groups will be at once stronger and more sensitive. And that's one of the main reasons why the new esoteric schools are being created and projected for the future. What are those areas where we really need these two? Because every group that I know of working in the esoteric field really needs these two, as well as later the planet Uranus in a new way. So visualize yourself and your group imbued by these energies veiled by the moon. Strengthening Vulcan with the key to the Agni Chaitans and sensitizing Neptune with the key towards the Agni Suryans. Finally, it is Jupiter that rules the monadic plane, along with an aspect of Neptune, and it is Virgo, with an aspect of Pisces, that are found on the monadic plane. So Jupiter is the hierarchical ruler. And think for a minute about the Christ principle and its full and consummated expression as it rises from the Buddhic plane, where it is also powerful, to the monadic plane. 6, 4, 2, that's the sequence, and then finally the cosmic astral plane. The spirit aspect of all human beings is found there. And try to sense the meaning of the spiritual victory of love divine in the field of matter form. Remember, Jupiter has about as much seventh ray and also rules the ancestral fires, which take its impression right down to the physical plane. But we're interested right now in Jupiter with Virgo as the ruler of the spirit plane, the monadic plane, and realize that this Christ energy can and will eventually embrace 1/5, the 6 worlds of monadic expression, including the humblest expression of life in form. There's a great mystery of the battle between Jupiter and Venus that we usually think of as a cooperation. Brihaspati, Jupiter, and Narada, Venus, with Venus in this case representing the higher influence. So, let's open our consciousness imaginatively to impression, emerging from the transcendental qualities of Jupiter, and bring it into our group, realizing where we need these qualities, and visualizing ourselves imbued with the divine qualities of Jupiter, and the group also imbued with those qualities. Hard to believe that Jupiter, which usually is in detriment in Virgo, is so strong in relation to Virgo in yet another way. So I'll use the note G again as we sense the Jupiterian qualities coming into our nature and our group nature. Oh. And what will happen? A great sense of inclusivity will be ours. Not an isolated, separatistic group, but a group that sees its relation to many other groups and includes them in a type of perceived unification. So those are the planets ambient now. There is much Mercury in the air, in the ethers, much Vulcan and Neptune, much Jupiter, as well as that symbol, the moon, for better or for worse. And we want to begin feeling these things. So they're not just knowledge, no. They are realities of our consciousness. Now, next, raise your imaginative group consciousness to the solar logos, in whom our monad, for the time being, finds its place and expresses through the sun and our solar system. That which finds its home within the sun, that is the highest aspect of our nature. And attempt to feel. By now you'll know what I mean by feel. It's an indication of sensitivity. Attempt to feel the great second ray of the solar logos, the God of love, wisdom, pouring through all planets, Shambhala, every monad, every soul, every personality, yes, on all planets, but now we're thinking about planet Earth. The sun, we are included by the solar logos, a great consuming fire of love, wisdom. And when we look up at the sun when we can, it's not just an object in the sky, it's a representation of that in which the highest aspect of our nature is included, that is, that which finds its home within the sun. Then it becomes a much more intimately conceived solar system, not just distant objects, which of course it's amazing to think what the fifth ray can do with respect to the outer exploration of these heavenly bodies. But people like ourselves are also interested in the subjectivity of the sun and, of course, of the solar logos, that all-inclusive being with regard to our solar system. So we need a new relationship consciously with the solar logos. And as we advance in our initiations, we will achieve that, especially at the seventh initiation, which takes us to the council chamber in Shambhala, and which is in the sea of fire, ruled by the sun and its hierarchical ruler, Vulcan from one point of view, Uranus from another. We need to see the solar system as one, and the sun with it. Now, a little more here as we focus our imagination on the constellation Virgo, a very big constellation spanning some 40 degrees or so of heavenly space. It radiates its peculiar type of light, the blended dual light. Two lights are seen, bright and strong, the light of form. Well, that's how it is now. Faint and dim, the light of God. This light is distinguished by the waxing of the one, which would be the light of God, and the waning of the other, the light of form. And it differs from the light in Gemini, which is oscillatory. There's a more fusing potential in Virgo. And the usual Virgo mantra, I am the mother and the child, God, I matter am, can be related to this form of light. The light of form, the mother, and the light of God, the Father, and Christ in you, the hope of glory, the son aspect or the child aspect. So open yourself, and increasingly it will be possible over the next 24 hours to feel the energy quality of Virgo. I mean, we're almost in Libra. We have kind of an overlap here, but okay. Feel this energy quality of Virgo, the purity of it, the intelligence of it, the nurturance of it, the inclusiveness of it. So much more in esoteric astrology than in the ordinary orthodox presentation. And as you open to the feel of Virgo now, the focus should be on the profound relationship to the second ray of love, wisdom, the ray of our solar logos, and the sixth ray of devotion and idealism, because our solar logos, it should be noted, is still astrally, in the cosmic sense, astrally polarized. And all of these other planets and their rays. So let's begin our pondering a little bit at first. And to get the most out of the full moon period, we should really keep pondering. Don't just do it once and forget it. I am the mother and the child. I, God, I matter, am. We'll take a few moments of silence to get into that pondering. In a way, we're talking about three levels of consciousness, all of which we are developing in relation to each other, but also three energy aspects of divinity. I am the mother and the child. I, God, I matter, am. So out of what I really am, which is pure being, comes an aspect called the mother, an aspect called the father, and an aspect which is the child. And we are all three. And then, of course, he tells us of the great mantra, which somehow captures what Virgo is to us now, these days. Who knows what it will be in the next solar system, but here it is, Christ in you, the hope of glory. And the glory is the transfiguration, building towards the transfiguration, which we are all slowly doing. These days we should carry both these mantras in our thoughts. And knowing that as we do so, we are building our causal body, just the way that weaver is. In Francis's illustration, slowly, cyclically, with monthly rhythm, we are building our causal body. We begin in our local cosmos system with the one about whom not be said, or the one about whom not may be said. Maybe we have to have permission. And inside the heart and the head center, we find the 12 zodiacal constellations. And they radiate forth through other constellations, including those which are part of a zodiac of 10, and this will include our own cosmic logos, formed principally by the 7 solar systems, of which ours is one. And our solar logos is the heart center of that cosmic logos. But the Virgo energy goes on into our solar system, and there it stimulates Mercury, Vulcan, Neptune, Jupiter, and indicates the moon. There's nothing to stimulate there. It just has to gradually disappear, which it will by the 7th round, whatever type of round that is. And not knowing so much about how this energy works on the other planets, but at least for our Earth, into Shambhala, and thus through our monads and all associated monads, and into the hierarchy, through the great Lord, the Christ, and into and through the ashram, the various ashrams, and also the one with which you believe yourself to be increasingly associated, and thus that energy beginning from apparently so far away passes through your soul, the group soul of your co-workers, and into your increasingly purified and spiritually refined personality, and all such spiritualized personalities from far distances, so it seems to us, although it's still right within our galaxy, so the distance factor is inconceivable, but from far distances right down into our personal system of energies, the energies of Virgo flow. And think about them now, just for a moment, in this way. The world is full of trouble. Humanity is in a big crisis. The other kingdoms of nature, accordingly, the lower kingdoms are in crisis. Where would you direct this Virgoan energy connected with rays 2 and 6, and with 4 major planetary rulers and all their rays, where would you direct this energy for the improvement of the human and planetary condition? Let's take a little moment here with that. You will have a target, and there are so many points of worthy application. So send that energy into the troubled area. You can't do them all, and see what you would hope would arise. Oh. Because eventually, friends, we have to become not only receivers of divine energy, but directors of the same. So let us close with the great invocation. And we can imagine that we are saying it in unison with the Christ and the Masters and the members of our groups. We'll pause a little between each verse, because it really does contain the plan encapsulated, and was only, if people could but realize it, given out to humanity when the Christ agreed to a great sacrifice. It seems to be his nature, somehow to sacrifice above and beyond the call of what most human beings can even conceive. And thus it is, we work toward that mind as it is in Christ, and towards Christ in you, the hope of glory. From the point of light within the mind of God, let light stream forth into the minds of men. Let light descend on earth. Oh. From the point of love within the heart of God, let love stream forth into the hearts of men. May Christ return to earth. Oh. From the center where the will of God is known, let purpose guide the little wills of men, the purpose which the masters know and serve. Om. Excuse me. From the center, which we call the race of men, let the plan of love and light work out, and may it seal the door where evil dwells. Oh. Let light and love and power restore the plan on earth. Oh. Remember, friends, we have busy, intensive days coming up. So do what you can to find the time to join us if you can, you know. I realize many of you have other obligations that are also reinforcing the esoteric approach. You have to do what you have to do. But we'd be only too happy to welcome you, you know. Yet the next couple of days are really, really full. With the actual full moon and the equinox and the St. Michael's Day and the we have to do a lot of combining, I think. There's just not going to be time to distinguish every single program. So we'll fuse and blend some of these programs. But Tuya and Ann have prepared the weekly schedule, which you should have received, and that will help guide you. At least here in Finland, it's about 11:30 at night. We're done working right now, but tomorrow's another day. So many blessings from all of us on the communications team. And we're wishing you a deep absorption of Master DK's material. Everybody could use that. And successful individual and group application in service. We'll aim at that goal. So I guess we'll sign off now, and I'm going to just kind of copy what's in the chat box here. That way I know to a certain extent who has attended. And I'd like to send you stuff, you know. So that's it for now. And let's go deep at this Virgo occasion, because we're about really to change direction, you know. It's going to be Libra now. The point of the Libra equinox, when important decisions are made. So let's take these things seriously and benefit ourselves and others from them. Lots of love to you all, and we'll be soon in touch.